I'm Sai Sridhar, and I cleared the UPSC exam in 2017 exam, and I joined the service in 2018. I cleared in my fourth attempt. The first two attempts of my preparation was pretty poor in my opinion. I think I personally believe that everyone should be able to crack UPSC at least at maximum of 3 attempts should be more than sufficient to clear this exam, because when it comes to UPSC, a lot of things has to fall in place for you to work everything in your favor. Hopefully, if it works in the first couple of attempts, well and good. It might go till the third attempt as well. So I want you guys to keep your minds very open to convince your families and parents, to whomever is very important to you, that this exam is something that you've been aspiring for a very long time, and keep that 3 years time span, because the process itself goes on for a year. So it just doesn't happen over a day. It's not like something you go to an exam, you pass it, and then you come out. It takes a lot of energy, uh, a lot of perseverance, a lot of focus and hard work. So that is all I have to say. And I guess I did the same thing. Like the first couple of attempts, I didn't have proper guidance. I did some mistakes along the way, but I learned in my third and my fourth attempts. And in the fourth attempt, I was able to bring everything together and put things into place, and somehow managed to crack it. But this presentation that I'm going to make today is totally what I followed during my preparation. It is the thing with UPSC preparation is you will have thousands of opinions about how to prepare for an exam, because everybody's skill is different, everybody's ability is different, so they have their own strategy. This is what I followed. Everything that I'm going to tell you now is 100%. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to make things up. I will not say, I did this, I did that. No superhuman stuff, because UPSC is just because any other exam. It's just that the process is so long, it makes it very tough. Apart from that, UPSC is not a very big thing. I mean, you can crack it if you have certain level of rationality, a little bit of common sense, and interest in hard work and studying. That is all you need from this exam. And please keep this in mind. Nobody who's clearing this exam is superhuman. There are people with superhuman abilities, but everybody can crack this if you put in the right effort. So this is what I did. And there is no need to eulogize or to like make a celebrity out of someone who cleared this exam. There is absolutely no need for that in the first place. It is just an exam, and you can do it as well. I will tell you whatever I did. This is 100% fact. Whatever I put on the presentation is whatever I did. Whichever things I did, I'm going to tell you. So you can believe in the words I say, and if it suits you, and if you think this strategy will work for you, then go ahead. This should definitely work for you. So I'll go ahead and start with the presentation now. I hope everyone's able to see the presentation.
Yes, we are able to see.
So I'll start with the very basic mistakes that I initially did in the first couple of years. When I started preparing for UPSC in the very first year, two things I was having a lot of dilemma, because I was doing many things before I came to UPSC. So I was still aspiring for something else. Even when I started preparing for UPSC preparation, I was still looking to get into some other field. I have huge interest in automobiles, so I was trying to do something in that field. But it wasn't working my way. So on the advice of my father and my own thinking, the thought process from the previous work experience and everything, all the experience that I gained throughout in the last 5-6 years after I graduated, after during my work and everything. So I thought, fine, I'll go ahead with UPSC. The basic mistake is you shouldn't do that. Get into UPSC only if you want to get into UPSC, not because someone told you, not because you see someone cracking the exams and there is this whole what to say this, as I told you guys before, there is this whole celebrity thing that goes on. They get very famous and all that. It doesn't work like that. You are in civil service because it is a very noble profession. You're opting for civil service because it is a very, very noble profession. That is one of the main reasons why you should aspire for civil services. It is a it is a service which is similar to I would say medicine and all. And I just managed to walk across the assembly here, the legislative assembly of Karnataka here. It's a very beautiful building, and it has a saying on the top of the building. It says, "Government work is God's work." This should be etched in your minds right from the beginning. This is very important. நமக்கு கவர்மெண்ட் வேலை வந்து உண்மையாவே கடவுள் செய்யற வேலை. ஒரு சாதாரண மனுஷனுக்கு நிறைய இடத்துல வந்து பவரோ அத்தாரிட்டியோ கிடையவே கிடையாது. This government service is very important. See, it is equivalent to God's work. You will have to realize how much we are dependent on government for every single aspect of our life. Wherever you go, the roads, the water you drink, the power we get, everything is dependent on the government. Education, health, everything. So you are going to be in a service where you will be working for the people, irrespective of how they are. You are not going to get into government service and then blame that the system is corrupt, people are corrupt and all. It doesn't work like that. You have to think beyond all these limitations and work for the best of your personality development and for the best of this country. So keep that in mind before preparing for UPSC. Please don't get into UPSC because someone asked you to do this, and someone asked, like, you saw someone who got selected into the exam and you just got in there. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of time you will spend on this. So you keep this in mind before getting into UPSC, and I'll go to the strategy straight away. In terms of methodology, the first mistake I did is I never managed to read the syllabus thoroughly and completely. Why I'm saying this is you have to read the syllabus and look at the things that you have to study about. If I don't know what I am going to study about, then how will I prepare in a proper way? I'll tell you one example. If you look at TNPC exam, Tamil Nadu Public Service Commission exam, the questions asked are very factual. They will ask for a particular year in which an incident took place. Say, for example, they will ask for a date of birth of a very famous leader or something like that. But if you look at UPSC, the question pattern is not like that. It is totally different. So only if you read the syllabus thoroughly, you will be able to understand what you are supposed to read. There is a lot of information going everywhere. Unless you don't know what to read, you will end up reading so many other things which is not important for UPSC. That is one of the biggest mistakes I did during the initial couple of years of my preparation. I'll tell you one example. I'll just go to this syllabus slide straight away. So you are looking, say for example, this is preliminary examination syllabus. You have to read it thoroughly and properly every now and then so that you get a knack of it. It says current events of national and international importance. So you straight away know that you should look for national and events which are nationally and internationally important. Say for example, the GST bill got passed. The GST was implemented. That is something of very, very big national importance. Something, an amendment in the constitution, that is of national importance. Say for example, this is of national importance. Do you think UPSC is going to come and ask you anything about, say for example, any political statement by any political leaders or anything like that? UPSC will never get into that. But that is also an event of national importance. So how do you segregate all this? How do you know what news I am supposed to read, what syllabus I am supposed to read, which content of something I read should I emphasize more upon? All this can be gathered only if you keep reading the syllabus repeatedly. So the second line says, it says history of India and Indian national movement. So straight away, you know, when you read history of India, you will have to know that you have to read ancient India, medieval India, and modern India. And there is a specific emphasis on Indian national movement. So you know that you have to read about the whole process of how we got independence, because the Indian national movement was all about achieving independence from the British. In the same way, you have to read the syllabus and then you have to analyze and make paths out of it. You have to know what you're supposed to read. Unless you do that, you will never be able to gain a hold on the subject that you're reading. And the second thing is, this is one of the second things that you have to do before you start preparing. One, you have to go through the syllabus, and the second thing is, please take the previous year question papers. This, I can't emphasize how much important it is. Please take the previous year question papers. I would say 10 years of the previous 10 years question papers. Please go through all the questions repeatedly. Like, say for example, I have done it personally. For me to analyze one prelims question paper, it will take only about 1 to 2 hours. You just have to carefully read the question paper sentence by sentence. What question has it been asked, and what are the options that they have given, and how is the pattern of the question. Why I'm emphasizing this is, as I said before, say for example, if there's an amendment in the constitution, it is an event of national importance. Some political leader says something very significant political statement that is also of national importance. But only when you look at the question paper and analyze the pattern, you will know if UPSC is asking question about amendment in the constitution, or if is it asking random question about some political leader making some political statement. So you will be able to look at what to read, how much to read, how much depth that you should put on one particular subject, only if you go through the previous year question papers. Unless you look at the question papers, you will never have the ability to pick up the data from newspapers, because some people keep on saying that I read newspaper for 3 hours, 4 hours, but at the end of the day, what information are you gathering out of the newspaper? All depends. Even when you read NCERT, hello, sorry, because there are many questions that come from NCERT books. There are many other reading materials. So what information should you pick from that? The books run to like 300, 400 pages. Are you going to take all the information from the 300, 400 pages? It is literally not possible. So which area should I focus on? And only if you analyze the question papers, you will know. In, say for example, if you analyze the question paper, this is what I personally felt. In 2014, the UPSC question paper was a very mixed sort of a question paper. They had both static syllabus as well as current affairs. In 2015, it was almost the same. In 2016, UPSC focused totally on current affairs. The number of questions from the static syllabus, from the books you read, was pretty much less, but more focus was given on current affairs. Only if we know all these ideas, only if we know the pattern in which UPSC is asking question, you will be able to read the information when you read. I will show some examples in my upcoming slides where you will be able to understand what I'm saying. And before that, you have to build a strong foundation. One of the biggest mistakes again I did in the first couple of attempts is I read a whole number of books which was not needed. You have to focus on very few books, but you have to read those books at least twice or thrice before you appear for the preliminary examination. This was one of the best strategies I followed during my times of preparation. You have to read NCERT books thoroughly. NCERT books are key because the reason is we are all mostly from technical background. If you look at the pattern, most of us are appearing for the exam are engineers and people like that. And UPSC is mostly concerned with humanities. If you look at the syllabus, so we really don't have a very strong hold on the humanities subject. And NCERTs, they give you a very, very good foundation to create content. Content creation is one of the biggest hurdles faced by an aspirant when he writes answers for mains. So you have to read NCERTs, because NCERTs, they give a very, very good basic understanding of all the syllabus, that is all the portions that is available in UPSC syllabus. You can touch all the you can find almost any NCERT book on any of the topics in UPSC syllabus. It is that easy to find. And not only that, NCERT is one of the key books from where a lot of preliminary questions will get picked. Why I'm saying this is that is one of the reasons I again insist on going through the previous year question papers. Only when you go through the previous year question papers, you will be able to know from where this question has been taken by UPSC, why this particular question was taken by UPSC in the examination in that particular year. Did anything significant happen in that year with regarding to this question or anything like that? So You have to break down the question paper and sit and do this for maybe a week. All you need is 3 hours of your day, and you sit and do this for a week. You will be able to gain a much deeper understanding of UPSC than through any other method. So please do that. And along with that, you have to read NCERT books, which is very, very crucial for prelims as well as content. Because for mains, no, the content is one of the biggest crucial hurdles, because we won't get so much of content in a very coherent way. So NCERT will give you that. And add to that, read newspaper on a very daily basis. When I was preparing in the 4 attempts, one thing I did properly was reading newspaper on a very everyday basis. In the 3 years of my preparation, I hardly missed newspaper maybe about a couple of weeks. That is all I would say. That too because the newspaper, on certain days they are on holiday. Say for example, they don't publish newspapers on Vinayaka Chaturthi. During that Ayudha Puja time, they don't publish newspapers. They take a couple of days off. Apart from that, I read newspaper on an everyday basis, in and out. You have to do this. It is very, very important. When you do this on a very consistent basis, when you do this on a very consistent basis, you will actually feel that there is a lot of content creation that is going into your head. You will get familiarized with all the topics. You will know that you are gaining a lot of knowledge right in a very right way. And apart from reading a newspaper can either be Hindu or Indian Express. I will recommend only either of these two newspapers. Indian Express is very, very good. Hindu is also very good. So depending upon your preferences, you can read either of these newspapers. And along with that, follow one current affairs website very regularly. I actually followed Insights website. It was very good to keep your current affairs updated. The reason why I am saying you have to follow one current affairs website is, in newspaper you will gain a lot of information, but say for example there will be some crucial information that gets published in PIB, Press Information Bureau. They actually release news every single day. We won't be able to gather all the current affairs very, very regularly on such a huge scope. So the reason why I suggest that you read one current affairs website regularly is so that you don't miss out on any other crucial current affairs. So please read newspaper on a very regular basis and current affairs. And one of the other questions people ask me is, why should I read newspaper when I have current affairs? That gives me all the information in a very consolidated manner. The reason is, UPSC is not a school-like examination. The examination does not end with prelims and mains. You have to appear in interview. So when you appear for interview, you need to have opinions on various crucial current affairs and topics that happened in the last couple of years, because that's how question is going to be. Say for example, I clear mains this year and I go for interview. Obviously all the important events that took place in the last 1 year is crucial for interview. There will be a lot of questions from those aspects. Unless I don't have a personal opinion, unless I don't have a rational opinion, there is no way I can do well in an interview. The reason why I'm telling this is, you will have consolidated information in current affairs website, but you won't be able to form an opinion unless you read the articles that is getting published in the newspapers. Say for example, in the lead article or in the editorial column of any newspaper, you will find eminent writers, like say for example, former foreign secretaries, UN ambassadors, so many people who are expert in the subjects, writing articles on so many different topics. When you try to read and analyze that for yourself, you develop an opinion on your own. It might be false, it might be true, but you will be able to form a rational opinion only when you read newspapers. Otherwise, it is impossible to develop an opinion on your own, and the mere opinion that you will develop is whatever you saw in the current affairs website, and that is totally dangerous, and you will never be able to score crucially in interview, and you will also not be able to write a proper answer in the mains. So that is one of the reasons why I request that please read newspaper, develop opinions, and in support of that, please read one more current affairs website regularly. And the crucial thing is, you have to increase your scoring as well. So how do you improve your scoring? You have to write many tests as possible. When I prepared in my third attempt, this is how my strategy went, because this is again one of the crucial mistakes I did in the first couple of years. I was never able to say, for example, I didn't write as many tests as possible. In my third attempt, I wrote somewhere close to 100 tests before in my 2016 attempt, I closed somewhere close to 100 tests before I appeared for the prelims. So my strategy was, like I have mentioned this website. In this website, you have test series of various institutes from across India. You can easily access all these websites on a very, all the materials on a very simple basis. You don't have to pay nothing. You just have to go there. And if you go there, it's easy. You will able to find all the test series of various institutes there. The reason is, how I prepared was, before prelims, like 4 months before prelims, for 3 months, for on every single day, I used to write about 2 tests, and I will go through the keys after writing every single test. This will help you. I can't tell you how much important this is, because you will know how much deeply you have studied. The problem with UPSC is the syllabus is so vast, you won't be able to cover all the syllabus before you go to the exam. So my advice is, please put your timetable in such a way that, like, before 3 months of your exam, you should have done with all your studying. Even if you have some little bit of portion left, don't worry about it. Start taking tests on a very regular basis. I used to write like 2 tests every day, and for me to go through the keys, it will take around 3 hours. So for one question paper, I'll spend close to 3 hours. So that will take like 6 hours of my day. It is very crucial, because you will know the mistakes where you're doing, because all the in this website you will be able to find the test series, its answers, along with the keys. It will be along with the keys. So what I used to do is, I will write the exam, and I will go through the keys. Wherever I did a mistake, I will note down on a sheet. I'll make notes of whatever mistake I did, because many questions you would have cleared it by fluke, like you would have got correct by fluke. Some questions you will know the answer very well. For some questions you will know 2 options are correct, but you won't be very sure about the other 2 options. So you, for a fact, to develop your knowledge and to test your knowledge, test is the way. So you have to write at least 100 tests, and it is doable. So what I used to do is, before 3 months, I started writing tests. So for 2 months, I continued with this pattern. I wrote around like close to 100 tests. And in the last 2 weeks before prelims, please do revision of all the materials that you have taken notes till now. It will refresh your memory, and you will be able to go and write exam in a very successful way. And the other advice is, please don't read so many books. There is no necessity to read so many books in the first place. As I told you, please read NCERTs very thoroughly, and along with that, these are the books that I have mentioned. Like polity, I read Lakshmikant. Geography, I read Gochen Liang. History, I read Spectrum. Plus TN State Board, the 11th standard book is very good for ancient and medieval India. For modern India, there is something called old NCERT. You will be able to find these things in the market. That is also very good. And economic survey is also very crucial. You will be able to find information, a lot of information about all of various subjects in all these books. And apart with that, along with that, read NCERTs. Now the other question that people ask me is, there are so many NCERTs, how do I read the NCERTs? If you look at most of the test series these days, almost all the academies is following the strategy. They have a separate test series for NCERTs alone. They have picked up crucial books. I think I read close to around if my memory serves me correct, I read close to like 42 NCERT books from 6th standard to 12th standard. I didn't read each and every single NCERT. From 6th standard to 12th standard, I read close to 42 NCERT books. It covers almost all the subjects. The NCERT books, how do I, you might ask me, how did I pick up on those 42 books? So all these test series, right? They will have test series based on NCERTs, and they will actually list the NCERT books that you are supposed to read. It is more than sufficient if you read those NCERTs alone. When I took test in that year, I guess it was in 2016 attempt, Insights actually had one of such test series. Like, they initially they had like 14 or 15 tests attributed totally to NCERTs alone. So they have a list of books that you're supposed to read, and you can read all those books, and that is more than sufficient. Along with that, you have to read all these books, and for environment, I managed to read Shankar's book. It was very good. I'm sorry I missed to mention here. So you have to keep your study material only to this much. Read NCERTs, read the books that I mentioned here, and if you are comfortable with any other standard book, please read those books, and along with that, please read newspapers, and please follow current affairs on a very regular basis, and keep doing this for 6 months. Only if you keep doing this for 3 to 6 months on a very consistent basis, on a everyday basis, you will feel an ocean difference in the way that you are preparing for examination. And once you are prepared, as I told you, 3 months before the preliminary exam, please manage to wrap all these things up, study as much as possible, wrap it up before 3 months, and manage to write as many tests as possible. And in my belief, in the way the exam has become competitive, I think you will have to take at least 100 to 150 tests to be extremely sure. Because as I told you, the information is available in front of you all for free. Like I mentioned, the website, they have all the test series there. You can go take tests on a very regular basis. And as soon as you take the tests, please go through the key, and you will know the difference that you made in your preparation. So please don't take test series lightly. And one of the other biggest flaws I have seen is many people take tests, they score very less, and what they will do is they'll stop appearing for test. It doesn't work like that. Even if you score 0 in your test, don't even worry about it. Go through the keys properly, and when you go through the keys, you will know the mistakes that you have done. You will keep evolving the way that you prepare. So it is very, very important that you keep writing the tests, go through the keys, and keep the reading list as small as possible, but keep reading it properly and in a very consistent way. Because UPSC, it requires a lot of perseverance than outright intelligence. So this is the syllabus. I'll just see this article. So and one of the other things is people ask, how do I pick up information from newspaper? I'll tell you, like whatever I said now, I'll just tell you how it works now in a very coherent way. This news article was in Hindu last week. So it says Mr. Jaishankar, he's a foreign external affairs minister right now. He is actually meeting Mr. Wang. He is China's foreign secretary at SCO next month. Say for example, now you have read the syllabus. Now you know the current events of national and international importance is crucial because it is explicitly mentioned in the UPSC syllabus. So I see this news and I straight away recognize that SCO is Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So this is a news of international importance. So you manage to pick that article and go through it. And you go through all these things. It says they are going to meet in Moscow for this thing. And Mr. Wang and Mr. Jaishankar, they also attended something called Russia-India Trilateral. This is something called the RIC. It's called RIC. This is also one of the international forum for these leaders to meet. Now you have read this whole article. Now you know that this is international. This is an event of international importance. Now what information do I pick from this? This knack you will develop only if you go through previous year question papers. In previous patterns of question papers, if you generally look at UPSC question papers, if you look at the organizations, from organizations aspect, they always stick to these aspects of questions. When it comes to an international organization, they will always look at the date it was formed, because now even though dates are not very important in UPSC, some of the dates are crucial. So they will actually look at in which year it was formed, who are its members. Members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it is very crucial because when India became a member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in the next very few days, Pakistan also became a member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. If you look at the previous year question papers, UPSC always sticks to these patterns of questions. So unless I have gone through the syllabus, Unless I have gone through the previous year question papers, I will not know what information to pick at all from this article. If I plainly read this article, there are only two things that can be predominantly highlighted. But if I had gone through the previous year question papers and the syllabus, I would have known, okay, this is an event of international importance. I don't know anything about Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So let me go through all the details that will UPSC ask. So I would have got through all this information, and this is how you develop your knowledge, and this is actually how you make notes for newspaper also. People repeatedly keep asking me, how do I make newspaper information? There is so much of information in the newspaper. Just imagine this. I went through this. These are only 5 questions. How long do you think it will take time for me to gather information about these 5 questions? Very simple. This is, if you go through Shanghai Cooperation Organization's official website, they will have all this information. So, and what will happen is, when you consistently read the newspaper, it says he is going to meet next month. So I'm presuming that these people will meet in September. And when you keep continuously read the newspaper, right, in September, obviously you will find some more article which will say in the newspaper that these leaders are met. So you will immediately remember that, yeah, I read last month the Shanghai Cooperation Organization was going to meet. This month they are meeting. It is not a conscious effort that you put. When you keep doing this on a consistent basis, your brain is such a wonderful organ. It will register in your mind. All it needs is that repeated effort that you have to go through it. So I do this. So I will eventually know when the second time I go through, when the article appears in September saying, you know, they have met, I would have already looked at all these aspects. So my mind will automatically recollect that, yes, I read about SEO. I already read about the members. You would have already made notes also. So you can go back, look at the facts, and then come back again. So this is how you develop knowledge when you read newspapers. And for that, crucially, you have to look at the syllabus. You have to look at the previous year question papers. And this is another example. See, this is something about the DNA bill. This also came in last week's newspaper. Articles like this will have information crucially for both mains as well as prelims, because this is something that can be asked in both aspects. Again, only if you look at the previous year question paper, you will know, okay, because when I was preparing, I think there were so many bills that were coming in. I don't exactly remember, but there were a couple of questions on bills also, like in prelims as well as mains. So you have to know that, okay, this is an event of national importance again. And see, this is a DNA bill. This is something's got to do with science. And if you look at the syllabus of preliminary examination, you can see that there is, in the last line, you can actually see that there is specifically mentioned line general science. So you know this is something to do with DNA. This is something of national importance. This is also a bill. So it is going to politically affect the people, socially affect the people, and along with that, it is also concerned with general science. So this is something news which I definitely have to read, and I have to make notes on it. Apart in this bill, so what do I pick up? So this is the whole news. So what information do I gather out of this? I'll read so that you guys will be able to pick it up. So this bill proposes that DNA sampling and profiling of citizens accused of crime reported missing. So see, this bill is concerned with what? It is concerned with profiling and sampling of citizens. I will tell you one thing. UPSC, if you go through again, if you go through the previous year question papers, UPSC has this knack of twisting words. What will happen is UPSC will put a statement. It will just say which are the following statements are true regarding DNA bill. And in one of the options, they will give DNA bill is about sampling and profiling of, it won't say citizens, it will say citizens and foreigners. So that statement is false. Only if you put all your attention, and you have to see, UPSC has asked questions like this. That is why when I read this article, I was able to highlight this point straight away. So this bill is concerned only with the citizens of India. It does not apply to foreigners. So all these things you have to pick up. How will you pick up? Only by reading the syllabus, only by going through previous year question papers. So I do this. So this thing is DNA sampling and profiling of citizens of India. What is the concern in this bill? The Parliamentary Standing Committee has actually said this could be misused in an inappropriate way. So you can see straight away that this is one of the biggest negatives of this bill. So what you can do is you can straight away note, say for example, when you're making notes, you can heading, you can write DNA bill. You can just write what is the objective of the bill. It is for sampling and profiling of citizens. Whom is the bill applicable to? It is applicable only to the citizens of India. And what are the negatives involved in the bill? You can actually mention that the parliamentary standing committee is an official authority. Parliamentary standing committee is a government authority. So this is a legal opinion that you can actually mention when you write the answers for mains also. Say for example, if the question is asked regarding a DNA bill in the mains examination, you can actually mention that the parliamentary standing committee has commented that this bill can be misused in the so and so manner. So this is how we gather information. Okay. And what is the name of the bill? It is DNA Technology Use and Application Regulation Bill 2019. And there's this other thing. Here it says nearly 60 countries have already enacted a similar legislation. This is actually not important in terms of prelims aspect, but this is the reason why I tell you have to read newspapers. If somebody is going to say, for example, I'm appearing for the interview board, and the board chairman says, see, the DNA bill has been passed by the parliament, and the parliamentary standing committee is saying that there are so many negatives to the bill. What do you think? Don't you think Indian government is functioning in an undemocratic way? What you can say is, no sir, this is not the first instance. So many countries have already passed the bill. You already know for a fact that US has also passed a bill like this way back in 1994. So this is how you develop an opinion also when you read the newspaper. But when you read a current affairs compilation material, you will tend to miss out all these information because they will pick up only on the factual basis, but most of the current affairs material won't be on an analytical basis. The analysis can be done on your own only when you read the newspaper for yourself. And I'll go to this para where it says DNA database. It also says it is a disregard to individuals' privacy and other safeguards. So this is an other negative aspect about the bill. So this is how crucially you have to develop knowledge. Just a sec. And here in the last couple of paras, it actually says if a person is arrested for an offense for punishment up to 7 years, they can actually take a DNA sample from that person. And below it also says this consent is only perfunctory. Perfunctory is when it is only for a procedural basis. So this is again a biggest negative of a DNA bill. Now you will actually feel there is a lot of article. This article actually carries a lot of negatives about the DNA bill and not much about the positive about the DNA bill. There is only one positive in the DNA bill where it says the database can be used to track repeated offenders. But don't worry, if you keep on reading the newspapers, as I told, for 6 months or so, there will be a couple of more articles about the DNA bill. When you read the editorial column, so many people will write articles about this DNA bill. You will gather a lot of information. There will be enough positives and enough negatives for you to write, and you will be able to arrive at a legitimate conclusion as well. I'll move to the next slide. See, this is again one of the proper preliminary questions that appeared a couple of days ago in the newspaper. It actually says 5 members of Great Andaman tribe have tested positive for coronavirus. If you look at this, it actually says Great Andamanese tribe is a particularly vulnerable tribal group. See, these kind of things should straight away seek your attention, because these are generally tribals. These issues are generally concerned with social issues. Again, you will know that these things are concerned with social issues only when you go through syllabus, and only when you go through the previous year question papers. So here it says particularly vulnerable tribal group. So who are these people? The question that you come to my head is, wait, after reading this article, so what is PBTG? Who are they in the first place? So here in this article, it says there are 5 particularly vulnerable tribal groups in Andamans, and they have listed it. They are actually all the things that I've highlighted: Great Andamanis, Jarawas, Onges, Shompans, and Northern Sentinelese. This thing is very important, because what UPSC will actually do is, again, if you go through the previous year question papers, you will notice that not only in Andaman, India, mostly in the states of Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and all, there are particularly vulnerable tribal groups. What they will do is, they will pick some names, pick some tribal groups from Odisha, and what they will do is, they will say for example, Gond tribes are not in Andaman. Gond tribes are mostly located in central India. What they will say is, Great Andamanis, Jarawas, Onges, Gonds are the tribal groups located in Andaman. Only if you have gone through this properly, you would have noticed that, okay, Gonds are not from Andaman, they are from a totally different state. So this is one information I can gather. And the other thing is, I have highlighted is, it says there is something called Jarawa Tribal Reserve. So what is a tribal reserve? It is something to what is a tribal reserve? Because tribal reserves was actually started by the government to protect the vulnerable tribal groups and also to save their culture. All these things will be easily found. The good thing is, whenever you read things like this, right, there will be always an official government website. You gather information from the newspaper, you just go to the website, you will gather some more information. Is there any particular act under which the tribal groups were established, on all these things? And there is also a geographical aspect to this question paper. In 2014, UPSC actually asked, there is one geographical divide between the islands of Lakshadweep. Between the islands of Andaman. UPSC actually asked, what is that divide between Car Nicobar Islands and Andaman Islands, I think, because we call it as Andaman and Nicobar Islands, but it is actually a strip of islands, with each island having a different name. So there is this northern group of islands, there is this middle group of islands, and there is this southern group of islands. So there is a proper geographical divide between each of these islands. So there is a geographical question also. And say, for example, if I had gone through the previous 10 years question papers, I would have known, okay, fine, there was a question on geography regarding the location of islands, and I have to go through the location of islands. So I will use my atlas and look at the location of islands along the way. And you can also see they have also mentioned the language that they speak. This is all proper factual questions, but as I said, UPSC will mix it up with one of the options in the sentence, and you will be able to easily eliminate that option because it is a wrong option, and you will be able to arrive at the answers very, very quickly. And this is a proper mains question. This again was an article in Hindu. It is regarding a making agricultural reforms. This is a proper mains question, but it also has prelims aspect as well. Actually, government actually passed a couple of ordinances. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. So what the author has mentioned is, he's actually mentioned that in that article, right, in that ordinance, there is something called the Essential Commodities Act. So in that Essential Commodities Act, government has restrictions on trading. Say, for example, sugar is an essential commodity, so they will impose export restrictions on sugar, and other such essential commodities. This like, you might ask me again, how will I know what an essential commodities is? I just read the article, but I don't know what essential commodities is. Again, you have to put in the effort and search for it. You might again ask, this will take a lot of time of my day. How am I going to do this on a repeated basis? I promise you, the initial gathering of information and knowledge during the UPSC is a very difficult process. But once you start doing this for 3 months, you will actually see that a lot of issues that comes up in newspaper and a lot of issues that is mentioned in UPSC is only a continuity from many of the previous issues. So once you have gathered that basic information along the way for 3 months, you put in that severe hard work for 3 months, and you develop your knowledge like this by reading NCERTs, by reading the basic books, by reading newspapers. After 3 to 6 months, you will see that you have a strong hold on many of the information that is already getting published in the newspaper. So it is only that initial 3 to 6 months of time which will require a lot of your effort and lot of your energy and your perseverance. Once you have crossed that hurdle, say for example, again I'm telling you, this ordinance was passed, and obviously it will go to the parliament again, and then it will become an act. Once when it becomes an act, there will be some other article that will mention that, you know, these ordinances have become an act. But when you read that, you would have already gathered information about these ordinances firsthand. So as you can see, it will become a continuous. Sorry, sir. So I'll try to finish up quickly, sir. It's only last slide.
Hari Om, I request all the participants to mute their mic. I think there was a disturbance. That's all. You can continue, sir. You're doing great. We want to listen.
Yes. So say for example, you have to, say for example, you read the title of the article. It says making agriculture reform successful. So you straight away know that the author of the article is trying to given some of his inputs to make sure that the steps that has been taken by the government has to be successful. You see, the below it says consistency in central policy, complementary reforms, and a collaborative center-state approach are necessary. You can actually write this as a conclusion if this question comes as a mains question. This will be your conclusion. So say for example, I will write about all the agriculture reforms, and then in the conclusion I'll write a consistency in central policy and collaborative center-state approach will be the way forward to make these agriculture reforms successful. As I said, the information is right there in front of you. It only depends upon your knack to pick it up and then present it in a very wonderful way. So if I go through the article, it says essential commodities. It says a statement about Essential Commodities Act. What the ordinance has done is, as I said, there is a lot of restrictions on many commodities under the Essential Commodities Act. In this ordinance, they have actually relaxed many of the impositions on those commodities. And what it says is, what the author is saying is, in the first para and the last 4 lines, these 2 ordinances are expected to enable interstate trade and promote contract farming, and thereby providing a large number of options to farmers. See, this is one of the objectives of the bill. You can straight away know that this bill is for what it is actually easing down many of the restrictions that they had on Essential Commodities Act. It is actually there to enable interstate trade. It is there to enable contract farming, so that it also enables what? It also enables greater income and livelihood and much better options to the farmers. But he actually says there are some, if you go on, see in the second para he is saying, however, there are several difficulties that needs to be addressed. So you straight away know that there is this objective of the bill, but the author is actually implying there will be some difficulties in implementing these agricultural reforms. See, the first one is what he calls as behavioral economics, called as time inconsistency. I don't want to read this whole article, but I'll just give the crux. Actually, what this author mentions here is there is this time inconsistency. He actually talks with relevant to many of the policies that came in 2-3 years ago. Actually 2 years ago, right, we had a policy called ENAM. ENAM is Natural Agricultural Market. It was totally online way of marketing the produce of farmers. He's actually saying they introduced ENAM, and if you look at the second side topic, it actually says policy reversals. The problem is, the author is mentioning is, actually what the government did was it introduced a policy called ENAM, and then actually if you go through please go through the highlighted portions when I'm done with the presentation. You can go through it in a very leisurely way. I'll just tell the crux of it. It actually says what the government did was it introduced a scheme called PM Asha scheme in 2018. See, this again will become a prelims question. So what he is doing, what he is saying is, ENAM actually had one certain set of objective, and then they again introduced PM Asha, which had a different set of objective, and then again they introduced a scheme called PM Kisan scheme. That is also mentioned in the article. Again, you have to read that from prelims aspect. And also he also mentions that, you know, government, instead of putting in one policy and sticking on to it and implementing in a full-fledged manner, it just keeps on introducing various agriculture schemes along the way. So he's actually mentioned in the last 3 years, they have introduced ENAM, they have introduced PM Asha scheme, and then they have introduced PM Kisan scheme. So what he is suggesting is, please don't introduce so much of schemes in the first place. If you read the crux of it, that's what he is actually saying, time inconsistency, because the schemes comes up in a very irregular manner, and the previous schemes are not, whatever schemes that had been already introduced is not getting implemented in a successful way. And the second issue, if you go for the side heading, what you can, that is one subheading which says policy reversals. If you go to the second side heading, it is actually saying better coordination. See, one, now you've actually gathered so much of information. One, you can actually see these ordinances have come, their objectives, and you is actually mentioned time inconsistency. So you can actually write in the main answer saying some of the agricultural marketing schemes or agricultural reforms is not getting implemented properly because of a phenomenon called time inconsistency, as told by or as mentioned by behavioral economists. This, see, this is a very standard answer. You just can't like simply write as if you are blaming someone, but you are actually writing it in a very polished way, mentioning someone else, showing that, you know, the behavioral economists say that there is time inconsistency in implementing agricultural reforms. And in the second thing, if you can actually see, it says better coordination. The second issue is actually mentioning is there is no proper coordination between the center and the state relations, and he's given his own reasons for that. And the third important issue he's actually saying is, he's actually saying the farmers, they lose most of their earnings to middlemen. That is the last 3 paras of this article, the whichever that I have highlighted. He is actually saying credit, agricultural credit and crop insurance is actually not reaching the farmers in a very effective way. He is actually saying not only these marketing aspects, we have to look at other aspects like insurance and also credit to the farmers, so that the benefit will reach the farmers in a wholesome way. So what you have read is the 2 ordinances have come, and it is actually seeking to promote certain objectives which can be extracted from the first para, and he's actually mentioned three problems with this in implementing agriculture reforms. One is the policy reversals or the time inconsistency, as I mentioned before. And then the second thing is there is no coordination between the state and the center. And the third problem he's mentioning is the reforms has to be wholesome because agricultural credit and insurance is all not reaching the farmers properly. So there is a lot of middlemen who will still dilute the effectiveness of the reforms. So you have actually created a proper mains answer out of this whole article. But how will you develop this ability? It actually took me hardly 5 to 7 minutes to go through this article and pick up the necessary information. Initially, I used to spend around 3 to 4 hours reading newspaper. Eventually, when you develop this habit, when you write so many tests, when you know what to read, when you've gone through the syllabus, when you have gone through all the question papers, you will have that ability to pick up the information as what is actually needed. So, and in the end, he is actually given a conclusion himself. He's saying, in conclusion, consistency in policy, collaborative approach, and complementary reforms are necessary for the success of agricultural market reforms. So that is how I used to make notes. I'll get up around 5 o'clock in the morning. I actually subscribed for e-newspapers instead of hard copies, because hard copies newspaper won't come around 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning. Say, for example, I will start around 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30. I'll read the newspapers till 7:30 or 8, because you can finish off in 3 hours. And after that, you can spend an hour or so. That is all you need. Say, for example, for this question, I would have gone through everything, and these are the only questions I would have written and answered it in my note. I actually had notes like this on a monthly basis that I used to spiral and keep. And before I appeared for the mains exams, I used to go through all these articles, so that there was a lot of content that I've already created reading a lot of newspapers, NCERTs, and the standard books. This is a very fine way of doing it, but it will require your extraordinary effort and perseverance. Please don't give up on it. You will actually feel the effects of it only after 3 months, but please keep doing it. You will actually find that this is a strategy that will work, and that is how I totally prepared. I'll just go into like some other few aspects. Just give me like 5 more minutes. How I used to do is, say for example, when the for 2017, before I appeared for 2017, from 2016 onward, obviously I was in a continuous preparation mode. In 2016 only, I started this strategy. As I told you guys before, you don't have to like segregate your preparation between prelims and mains, because when you read newspaper on a very daily basis and you make notes like this, see, I'm making notes for prelims and I'm also making notes for mains. So it goes hand in hand. There is no like, how do I read for prelims, how do I read for mains strategy. It just goes hand in hand. And then before the end of the exams, I actually went through all the spirals, because for every month I had almost like one spiral book. So that will be like 7 to 8 spirals. I went through all those things. But for me, the prelims was in the month of June, I believe. For April and May alone, I stopped making notes because I focused a lot on the tests. I used to read the news. Even then, I didn't give up reading the newspapers. Please keep reading the newspapers continuously. For the last couple of months alone, say for example, I think it was only for the month of May and April, I didn't make notes. But after the prelims got over, again from June onwards till the month of October or till the month of October, I was again making these notes. On top of that, you will get lot of additional information to read and guidance from your academies that you are going to. And when you put all these things together, you'll have a lot of knowledge. Please write as many tests as possible. For mains, right? When you write for mains, please stick to the question, whatever they are asking. Please start with a gentle introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. As long as the answer is structured, that is all they expect from UPSC. They don't expect you to write beautiful process there. That is not possible. All they want is, have you written the answer to that question? Is there a proper introduction? Is there a proper content? And is there a proper conclusion? Say for example, if this question had appeared in UPSC, I would have easily written. I would have written that agricultural marketing reforms are not getting implemented properly. Some introduction. Say for example, it has always been a struggle for the government to implement the reform successfully. Recently, there were a couple of reforms that were suggested by the government, and I would have said these are the positives of the bill, these are the negatives of the bill, and to implement it in a very successful manner, I would have given this conclusion. Whatever the author has given as conclusion, I would have made that my conclusion and given that as my conclusion. So there is a structure to the answer, and this is all you have to do. Apart from that, depending upon your optional subject, please stick to your own strategy and read accordingly. And one more thing, please look at a very big leaders for your inspiration. Our country is as it is today. People actually tell that constitution has failed us. No, it is actually not true. It is the other way around. We've actually failed the constitution. Constitution was written by one of the biggest leaders. Please don't this is one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Ambedkar. It was in Constituent Assembly, because you can actually go through it. This whole idea of eulogizing someone, calling Talaiva everyone, just blindly believing in some people. Actually why Mr. Ambedkar made the statement, because he actually felt people are blindly believing in whatever Gandhiji was saying. But this applies to everyone. If we are a little bit mature society, and if we actually stick to what Mr. Ambedkar is saying in these 4 lines, actually the root for all the evils lies in this particular statement. If we follow this, there's a lot of solution to the society. So try to pick up your own favorite leaders, make a rational opinion. Just don't go about believing everything that comes out, because we are living in a very, very dangerous society, because the informations that we get, the things that get shared on WhatsApp without no factual basis, people just say whatever they want to say. But as a civil servant, you have to be mature enough to understand what is true and what is not. You should always be tempered in your emotions. You should always be tempered by your belief. UPSC is for the whole country. You have to be politically neutral. You have to be religiously neutral. It is all in the conduct rules. You cannot violate these conduct rules. It goes against the conduct of a civil servant. So unless you develop all these ideals right from the time of preparation, you will never be able to transform your personality once you get into the service. When you're getting into civil service, it is for the whole country, irrespective of who the citizen is, who the person is. And you have to be a very moderate, tempered, and a very logical person. And that will come only when you keep your mind broad, keep your ears open to everything that you're listening to, but do not believe in everything that you're listening to. You have to be your own judge and judge things based on the facts that you hear and careful analysis. Please don't fall for things that whoever you believe in says. So that is how this country will mature as a proper democracy. That is something I strongly believe in. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. Maybe you could stop sharing the screen. We've got interesting questions. If we may just take another 10 minutes of your time to just answer the questions. Ninga, screen sharing, I think you can probably close it.
Yes.
So some interesting questions were, people were very concerned about reading a particular newspaper. Hindu வந்து ரொம்ப biased இருக்கு அப்படின்ட்டு they are asking, and what are your views on that?
Yes, ma'am. See, that is what I'm saying. Any newspaper you take for that matter, that's what I'm saying. All these newspapers, they just didn't come out of nowhere. Say, for example, Hindu was started in 1875. It was strictly against British colonialism. They have this tendency towards the socialist leftist principles. Bhagat Singh had the same sort of principles. Bhagat Singh extremely believed in communism and Marxism. He wanted the left government, socialist government. There is no newspaper that can exist. You cannot exist. You cannot find a magazine which is not having some kind of ideological orientation. All I'm saying is, that is what I'm saying. Whatever you read, but take it with a pinch of salt. That is exactly why I mentioned in the last slide about Ambedkar. You cannot believe everything that comes on newspaper. You cannot believe everything that someone is saying. Even today, I made a presentation. I still insist that I spoke 100% truth, but it is up to the listeners to work a strategy for themselves to see if this actually works for them. They cannot blindly tell, it worked for him, so it will work for me. You have to work on your own and see if it works. In the same way, when you read an article, if you find it is extremely biased, right, just search for that article, search for the topic somewhere else. Some other person would have written something about it. You will be able to find the pros and cons of an issue definitely on the internet. There is so much to read. That is one of the other reasons why I insisted Indian Express is a little more towards the center. If people actually believe that Hindu is a little bit biased, they can actually opt for Indian Express, because Indian Express is equally informative. It is a very, very good newspaper, and they actually tend to hold that center line in a much finer way, in my belief, like from what I've read. So it depends. But since I've always stuck to Hindu, reading it for a very long time, I just thought I'll be comfortable making a slide in there. So that is the reason why I picked Hindu. But I wouldn't advise any other newspaper apart from Hindu or Indian Express. I think that would be dangerous.
Okay. Some of them have asked, what are the recommended websites for current affairs?
I followed Insights on India only. That is the only thing I followed. So I recently visited their website. It is still updated, and I found it to be good. So they can stick to it, but please don't follow 3-4 newspapers. Please don't follow 3-4 current affairs website. People actually have this afraid of being missed out on some information. If, for example, they will say, what will happen because Insights is having this information, this book is not having that information, that fear will come up. But the chance of you losing marks because of that is very less, because a proper focused guy will pays attention only to one newspaper and one-to-one current affairs. You will find that serious candidates will follow this strategy very, very strictly, because they don't want to waste their time on reading so many materials. There is no need to be afraid that you will miss out on some question, because say, for example, there would have been some information on your website that would have not been in his website. So he will also miss out on something. It's not like you are the only person who is missing out. So eventually, it will balance out. And people, the current affairs website, they try to cover almost everything. It is impossible to miss out on things, even then, if you miss out, it will be only a few. There is absolutely no need to be scared of that.
Okay, super. Okay, so Dhanalakshmi has asked regarding language usage in interview. So she says she's very confident to speak in Tamil. Is it necessary for her to master English and Hindi during the interview process? What is your take on that?
Hindi is an absolute no. There is no need for Hindi at all. I think both conducts interview in their own mother tongue also. I have seen people from previous batches doing interviews in their own mother tongue. I think there is an option. I'm not very sure about that, but if someone's confident of taking the interview in English, they can do so, ma'am. I don't think it's a very big deal. You don't have to be like super good in English. Nobody is super good in English. We are not Britishers. We are not English people. We are not expected to be the masters of the language. As long as you can communicate whatever you want to communicate in a very proper way without being afraid. That is one of the biggest things in interview. Whatever question they ask, even if you don't know, you are supposed to say, I don't know. You just can't make up your answer. That is not going to work.
Don't try out of nowhere, say,
So,
talk.
Just say don't know. It's okay. It's human. I'm not superhuman to know every single thing that is happening, right? So as long as you don't lose your cool, and if you're confident enough of speaking good English, very basic normal English, it is more than sufficient in interview. They don't expect you to be like a master of the language.
Okay. Lokesh, can you please stay muted? Thank you so much. Okay, so Abdul has asked an interesting question on actually how to answer. Maybe they want to just probably listen to your view on how to actually take this question. Perhaps you can just give them a teaser. Critically analyze the effects of COVID-19 on India's GDP. How can I answer this question if it's asked in the UPSC interview? How would you? Yeah.
COVID-19. Like, in what aspect are they asking? See, I haven't thought about it much, but this is the good thing, because when you're in continuous preparation, what we will do is you would have already thought about this question. You would have already picked up like 3-4 aspects of it, but I can't give them an answer straight away. But straight away I can give 3 questions, 3 angles to it. First thing, if they ask about the COVID impact on India, I will straight away say, one, it has caused a very big economic impact on the GDP. This will be the quarter where we will be having negative growth biggest negative growth ever in the Indian history of GDP. So it has affected us in a very bad way. Secondly, we never knew that migrant labor issue was such a big issue. Actually, only after that there were reports saying that the migrant laborers were almost in the numbers of 10 to 20 crores. We don't have proper information of where they are going, how they are migrating, and all these aspects. So as a government, we should be focusing on all these issues so that their welfare is taken care of. And the other thing that was brought to the fore was the way in which our medical infrastructure was totally crippled. We have one of the poorest spending in the ratio of health to GDP ratio. It is still only around 1.5%, I think, from the government side. So we have to look at all these aspects. But what I'm saying is, this is how your answer should be. Like, I think this is a very you can if you yes, yeah, economy has taken a very big hit. Yes, we are in a very, very bad shape. There is no need to go and put a rosy picture saying India will come out of it in a very strong way. Our economy is in all good shape. Nobody expects you to tell that, because we know for a matter of fact that GDP is in a very bad shape ever since in the longest ever history of India, as far as anyone has known. So this is how the answer should be. Just tell the actual answer to the question. It should be factual and it should be supported by rational arguments. That is all.
Beautiful.
And once we keep preparing for the interview, right?
Yeah.
Actually, say for example, I'm sure this year whoever was gone for the interview would have thought about all these aspects. That is where the academy should come and help. Like, say for example, they should be able to tell the aspirants, please look into these aspects, please look into social aspects, political aspects, economic aspects. So this question might come in for the interview, and obviously that is where this mock interviews and everything will help. And when you go through a lot of questions, even it is some question which you have not actually prepared, right, you will be able to answer. And if you don't know the answer, please say don't know. That is more than sufficient. That's all.
So that was a huge value. If you don't know something, don't make it up.
Don't make it up. is going to put
enough
us in a very bad
content
light.
creation. I mean,
Yes.
like you have enough knowledge, you'll be able to say something, but based on facts.
Yes,
Correct?
yes, definitely. Yes.
Right. One question was interesting, right? Now, essay writing, I think, is a very important skill that
Yes.
aspirants to really develop, right? So your tips perhaps on essay writing, what could that be?
I'm again telling you, even for essay writing, right? I tend to develop everything out of newspaper only. The content creation is there in front in newspaper only. Say, for example, if there is an essay on agriculture, for that matter, I think when the day in my exam, I think I wrote an essay on agriculture only. So in terms of essay, right, it is actually better to look at some of the quotes told by some leaders regarding that particular field or anything like that, because say for example, Nehruji, right, he made a quote that agriculture is the most important profession of all the professions ever made. And Thiruvalur has a Tirukkural on the very same lines, like Ulavu Tolil is the best of every occupation. I wrote that as that my essay began with that quote. So, and then see these things, right? One thing is you gather information from wherever you have to take, Hindu and all that. I write this quote. I write a small introduction, gentle introduction, and then my essay was, I think that question was mainly focused on why farmers were committing suicide or something like that, ma'am. I don't exactly remember. And then there was a data on that in that year about the income of a farmer. It was published by NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization. Again, that was in Hindu only. I think it was somewhere close to like 200 rupees or something per day or something. I don't remember the facts now, ma'am. It's like 4 years now. So you have all these facts. You sit in the room along with the information that you've gathered. You just manage to refresh your memory. And if it is something that you are very closely attached to, right? One of the biggest aspects when preparing for UPSC, the first year I was a bit, I wouldn't say insincere, but I wasn't giving my 100%. But in the second and third attempt, I realized the value of this exam. I mean, the things that one could do to this nation if one is a very, very sincere guy, sincere officer. So I thought, fine. So from that moment on, everything that went kind of affected me. Any news about agriculture, any news about farm, anything, it has to affect you a little bit personally. If you are just going to prepare just for the sake of writing an exam, right? Memory doesn't work that way. For me, whichever affects me personally, it tends to stay in my mind. I think that is the case for all the human beings.
So when you really some kind of emotional connect to it,
emotional,
right? So I think really,
yeah. So when you actually, you don't have to struggle to bring all this information to the front of your brain.
Correct.
You see a topic related to that, right? Everything will flow because you would have already prepared a lot of content. You already have a content because you've already prepared for mains to write a lot of answer. So whatever content you have, you just have to put in a coherent way, and that will easily happen. There, it is just like minor tweaks here and there, and along with that personal attachment to what you are doing, it will bring a lot of difference. If you are just good, that is what I initially insisted. If you are going to come into civil services, it is for a completely noble motive. It can't be like, I'm on cat on the wall types. That is not going to work. You have to put in fully your emotions as well into it. So that I don't know, that is how all these things work for me. So when I looked at that topic, it just flowed. Every information flowed. I just had to write in a very coherent way. That is the only thing. But that will also, you will pick up. I mean, it is very simple. Because even in essay, people actually say, do you have to write a very complicated language or not? Not at all. Ma'am, please ask them to put their absolute effort in this. I will tell you, ma'am, I am a movie buff. I used to watch a lot of movies. Me and my mother, no exaggeration, we used to watch. We are not these kind of people who watch and sit on TV types. We go to the theater. We will watch at least 4 movies every single week. I'm not joking. The multiplex people were so friendly because they know that we are coming. But in my preparation in that last 3 years, right, I watched only 2 movies. I'm not joking. In theaters, I watched only 2 movies. In laptops, I didn't watch any. I missed all my family marriages. I missed my friends' marriages. I missed every possible thing in that 3 years. And there were a couple of bad things that happened to my health. I had disc issues. I had to undergo physiotherapy for 6 months. It was horrible. But unless you are ready to give up everything, please tell on your friend's face that you want to study. You're not going to drink that day. You're not going out for a movie. You're not going out anywhere. Tell your family that you're not coming for marriages. Tell your family that you need all their support. Just focus only on UPSC and not on anything else. This I absolutely did, especially in the last couple of attempts. I did not think about anything else apart from this. So please, if you work that way, you can definitely crack it. You can definitely 100% crack it. You don't need money also these days. I mean, everything is available on the internet. The study materials, the newspapers, the tests, everything is available on the internet. Like the things that I have shared. NCERT books are available online. Download it from NCERTs for free. The other books, it's not going to cost you much. Test materials available online. So you don't have to literally spend anything apart from your time alone. And the one thing is, money will go. I mean, you will spend all the money. You can think going, you can think, I know I'm going to go to the best of institutes. It won't help you. Academy is like only 20 to 30% for them to give you proper guidance. The remaining 70% comes from you alone. And especially once the classes are over, once you got the basic understanding of that subject, that 70% becomes 100%. You just have to find the best faculty for your optional, the best teacher for the other subjects who you think will make you understand better. Simple as that. Get a basic hold of the subject and keep reading repeatedly so that you understand things for yourself. Don't expect someone to come and teach something to you. It is not a school exam. So unless you are ready to put in so much of hard work, then please walk out of UPSC. The reason I'm telling is money doesn't matter. But once you spend 3 to 4 years in this field, and then you're not able to crack the exam, not because you were not able to put in a lot of hard work, then the whole blame falls entirely on you.
So I think it's very important to take 100% responsibility, spend the time dedicatedly, be consistent in the path, because it's a long haul. It's not going to be short. You can see his the cream of the cream, right? So you're getting it from him himself. So I think it has been a great value addition. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you. We from the Chinmaya Academy of Civil Service are extremely grateful to have you and to share your expertise and learning. All right.
Thank you
so much for joining us. To each and everyone who stayed back, thank you so much. Damodaran, back to you.
Hari Om. Thank you, sir. It was an excellent presentation and talking. Okay. Now we will end our program with our final prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnashya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Thank you all the participants. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much.